infinite divided by infinite, it's still infinite. Om Purnamada Purnamada. It's a fascinating thing to meditate on. But then to twist that and come to the conclusion that, oh, that means that, I am you and you are me and he is, she is, we are all together, as John Lennon put it, or however he put it. He was wrestling with that as well, because they said the Beatles are God back in the 60s. Clapton is God. Well, he wasn't, was he? John Lennon wasn't really God. So to say that you are God, this is a big mistake. But we know that we're talking about famous Russian composer Scriabin and his connection with the Theosophical Society. They were interesting people. They're looking, you have to keep in mind, they're looking for an alternative to Christianity. And rightly so. Christianity is limited. I don't want to get into that, but it's a limited concept. And beginning with, say, I don't know, maybe Francis Bacon or Voltaire or Galileo even, there's this big resistance to the dogmas of the Catholic Church and the Christian movement, which would keep people from thinking. They wanted to repress thinking and ideas and anyone who thought or had ideas. And so the reaction came. Many, many different philosophical thinkers, from the Romantics to the Theosophical Society. William Butler Yeats there in Ireland. Is it Yeats or Yeats? What's the correct pronunciation? Yeats or Yates? What do you guys say? William Butler Yeats?
I think it's Yeats.
Yates.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I stand corrected, because I'm an American. Sometimes you'll hear people pronounce something the way they're written, and it means they know how to read, but they were never deeply involved. So let's make it Yates. Yeah, he was interested in the Theosophical Society because also Catholicism there in Ireland is so heavy. People fight wars over things like that. That it really prevented people from thinking. So they're looking for alternatives in India, and they go there and they find Shankaracharya is very popular. And his particular strain of mysticism, that the infinite is everything. You're part of that. Part of the infinite is also infinite, so you're infinite. That's sort of turning the shloka on its head. See, infinite divided by infinite is also infinite. So you're a part of the infinite, therefore also infinite. You're ergo, you're God. Well, we Vaishnavas don't particularly like that. On the other hand, Srila Sridhar was asked, what's worse, a Sahaja or a Mayavadi? And he said, well, what's worse, a thief or a beggar? A poor man. A poor man has nothing. So the Mayavadis advocate nothing, the infinite nothing. Whereas the Sahajas, they're trying to steal something. They're trying to say, okay, I'm already there. I don't need to do the homework. I'm going to steal. I'm just going to be Krishna. Guru is God. Sakshat, right? Samasta Shastri. Guru is God. So what's the relationship between Guru and his disciples if Guru is God? Well, you can worship him, but aren't we followers of something more intimate? What about Madhurya Ras? So if Guru is Krishna and you're interested in Madhurya Ras, you should involve yourself in a conjugal relationship with your Guru. Obviously, that's the purport. No, that's why Srila Guru Maharaj says, Pujal Ragapat Gaurava Bangi Matala Harichan. Kirtana Rangi. We're interested in the Kirtan of Mahaprabhu, and we'll leave it there. We're not going to shave our beards and put on saris, not in this lifetime, So what's worse, the cheap imitation or the absolute void? Well, we'll take the voidists, and oddly, the Buddhists and the Shankarites are on the same page about so many things. That's why Buddhism is popular today, or an American version of it. It's very popular because they're on the same page. You just substitute zero for the infinite, and you've got it all. But Shankara drove his big contribution, why he's respected even by the Vaishnavas. He drove the Buddhists out of India. Buddha came from India. It's odd. All the great, brilliant, deep philosophical movements really came from India. So the Bodhi tree, that's located in Gaya. It's in India. But why did that leave India? It took over the whole subcontinent for a while. Everybody was a Buddhist under Chandragupta. But later, Shankara comes along and he sweeps them out. How did that work? Well, Buddha came about because of the abuse of the Brahmanas. The Smarta Brahmanas in particular, they held the keys to all the rituals, and you couldn't move without doing a ritual. If you wanted a job, or if you want to baptize your son with the holy water, the Shraddha ceremony when you die, all that. Every ceremony has to be presided over by a Brahmin, and the Brahmanas won't let you unless you follow their orders. So they had a lock on so many things that people rebelled against that. And when Buddha came along and said, you don't need this, you don't need a guru, you don't need a guide, you don't need a brahmana. At the end, there's nothing. Let's resolve everything in zero. Then people thought, oh, okay, this is not so much different from the infinite, and we don't need all these idols and ceremonies and sacrifices. Let's go with Buddha. But in the Hindu soul, in the Indian soul, in the Atma, there's a great love for Shiva and Durga and Ganesh and Krishna and Vishnu and the Puranas, the whole legacy of Hindu, Indian mystical thought and history. So Shankaracharya came around and he said, look, you don't have to reject all that. Keep it. Just turn the equation on its head. Let's go for the infinite. What is zero after all? Infinite is a much better idea. And the people of India were like, yeah, that's right. Not only that, but if we accept Shankaracharya's version, which is very similar to Buddha's, we can return all the Vedic things that we love so much. And so they drove Buddha out of India, I don't know, 500 years before Christ or 200 years before Christ. I'm not sure exactly the history. I'm not sure, don't remember off the top of my head, when did Shankara come about? Maybe later, Indian history is vague for certain reasons. But anyway, whenever Shankaracharya came along, Buddha had to leave India. He had to pack his bags and go because people were not hypnotized by the idea of zero. But anyways, so zero and the infinite. I guess Scriabin, he liked the Theosophical Society version. And last week we were discussing Krishnamurti and how when the Theosophical Society was looking for a successor, Acharya, Annie Besant decided it would be, she had a GBC, a council. They decided it would be Krishnamurti because he was young and beautiful and charming and handsome. And at the big meeting where he was supposed to be anointed as the chosen one, he got up and said, I am not your guru. There are no gurus. And everyone went. Oh, he's the guru. So, and later he made trade on that. He had a center established in Ojai, California, where my brother used to live. And recently I listened to him just to see, is it true? Can he really say that? That I am the guru who says you don't need a guru? And he formed a school because his thesis was we need to rid ourselves of conditioning. And so they made a school and they asked him, so what do we teach here at the school? We have people enrolled now. You sold your idea. People paid their tuition. What are we teaching? What do the teachers say? And if you get a chance, you can listen to it. It's kind of interesting because he doesn't give an answer. It's like, well, what would you like to teach? Do you think that what you like to teach would rid them of conditioning? He just kind of asks questions and he's very mysterious about the whole. So, anyways, but we're not here to talk about these bogus gurus. We're here to talk about Sri Guru and His Grace. And, I keep thinking about this elucidation thing. It's very terrible, Srila Sri Ramakrishna. I took sannyas from Srila Sri Ramakrishna. I heard the sannyas mantra from Srila Sri Ramakrishna. So why I left, people not give me credit for what I did as a sannyasi. I always wonder, well, why did you leave it? You must have done something very, very bad. But, okay, I carry the guilt, because in my former life, I was a Catholic. We Catholics know all about guilt. Why did you leave? But it wasn't so much a question of that. It was a question of there were lots and lots of politics. When we published Sri Guru and His Grace, and when we published The Search for Sri Krishna, we thought, that's it. People would just read this book and it would change their minds. But now we know, people don't change their minds just because you have a nice argument. That's not what it's about. It's very, very difficult to get people to change their minds about anything. And at that time, an edict came down from the governing body council of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which at the time was promoting American gurus and French gurus and English gurus. And they didn't like the idea that anybody was superior. And they prohibited Srila Sri Ramakrishna's books, which means that if I had any plans as a sannyasi to travel to different preaching centers and enliven the devotees with the message of Srila Sri Rama, I couldn't do that. I was banned. So out of the 180 different temples and preaching centers established around the world by the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, I was not allowed to visit any of those. And then we had at the time maybe 10 or 15 preaching centers, and we were all just struggling. Things changed. The standards went down a little bit, and so on and so on. When at that time it became inconvenient for Bhaktisiddhar Goswami to continue with his mission at the San Jose Temple for reasons which I can't really fathom even today. But he decided that was not a going concern, it would be sold. And he would move the deities and the temple to a different location with a handful of followers, his pujari and the people who collected. I was out, so he was very kind to me. I love him. He was my greatest friend, still is. But that was it for me. And later, he kind of took a hiatus, as he calls it, which means he wasn't interested in maintaining a mission for a while. And It's a long story, but his secondary mission also kind of disappeared. Then in the Bay Area at the time, around San Francisco, there must have been 10 or 15 or 20 different, not only sannyasis, but very highly qualified grihastas, senior members who sort of moved in and took over the remaining followers. And I was a young man. I was only about 30 years old. I really didn't have the presence to maintain a mission of my own. And there was a lot of competition. I don't want to get into, who those people were. I traveled around the world looking for a different situation. I went to Berlin, and I was preaching behind the Iron Curtain. They had the Berlin Wall at the time. I was preaching in Berlin for a couple of months, but that turned out to be inconvenient for the Hare Krishna people who were already there. I went from there to Colombia. Finally, I ended in Costa Rica, and I just didn't have the moral courage to found a mission of my own. I had no more energy left after working hard and publishing books and all that. But my point is, I was a sannyasi. My name was Mahayogi, Bhaktivedanta Mahayogi. And I had this sense that as a young man of about 30, when I was a little overweight, people would look at me and go, this guy is a yogi? This is yogi? And not only that, he calls himself what? Maha, I know what that means. Mahayogi. To this day, nobody can stand it that my name is Mahayogi. Everybody goes, what do you mean? You, Maha? Oh, I see. You eat a lot of Maha. You're fat Maha, And so it's been very difficult for me to live that down. And so in the same way, I've always felt highly unqualified to represent, Sri Guru and his grace or elucidate anything. It's very difficult to add or subtract anything from Srila Sri Ramas's words. And, but, he says, you have to do it. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Sanatan, Krishna's grace is flowing through me to you. It is passing through me. But I don't understand all these words. I feel something like that. This is Srila Sridhar. I feel like I'm carrying out my Acharya's order. Being so low, I have accepted this duty as I've been ordered by my Acharya to do. With this necessity within, one may do the work of an Acharya. So how can I give any light? Elucidate means to give light. How can I give any light to this book? I don't know. But some people have kindly asked me, can you read this book? And here I am. Being so low, I've accepted this duty as I've been ordered by my Acharya to do. So I don't know really about establishing temples or deity worship or rituals or any of these things. But I have tried in my humble way to serve the words of my Guru Dev, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami. And so he says it is not only external, but internal also. The Acharya has asked us, go on with the preaching. You're qualified. If you don't do so, then why did I give it to you? As I spread this message, you must also spread it. If one feels such a sincere urge within his heart, he must do that work. And so the other day, someone said, well, what's the need of all this information? And I thought, boy, that's so right. Why are we just talking and talking words and words, as Hamlet put it? Words, words, words. There's an interesting Sanskrit word, Upanishad. And so does anybody know what that means? What is the meaning of Upanishad? Well, I looked it up. That's what I looked.
Those things that you learn when you are behind your spiritual teacher.
Yeah,
Those things you learn that are very subtle,
yeah,
sutiles. Dandavats,
Dandavats.
Mahayogi.
Yeah, that's right. Mhm.
Hari-Om, Hari-Om.
Upanishad. It means um, to. It means close to. Ni, it means very close to, and shat, it means like sat, sat, to, it could be sat, like existence, to be, or it's more like to sit near the feet of the guru. That's Upanishad, right? So in one sense, you can say, okay, well, just by sitting at the feet of the guru, you get what you need. Or you can think, well, the word Upanishad is all these books, right? So somewhere between sitting at the feet of your guru and that's this word in Spanish like profundizando. It's a really good word. It means to go deep into the teachings of your guru. So Upanishad, to sit at the feet of the guru and hear the ancient eternal teachings, right? So what is the Upanishad? It's scripture. And so we can't really avoid hearing the scripture. It may be enough just to get the vibration and say, wow, I got a cool vibration. But apart from darshan, we also want to hear from the guru. So go on with the preaching. You're qualified. If you don't do so, then why did I give it to you? As I spread the message, you must also spread it. If one feels such a sincere urge within his heart, he must do that work. If we do not serve society with whatever we have imbibed from him, then we will be responsible to our guru. And this is a very difficult responsibility, and it will be discharged distinctly according to who you are, where you live, what language you're trying to work in. And it's not enough just to go out into the street and tell people chant Hare Krishna or die. We tried that, chant Hare Krishna or die. It may not be a good message. People are fearful today about other cultures, mantras, things from other languages. So it may be also possible that you need to have a good example. And if you do your work and you do your life, when people look at you and they think, wow, this person is brilliant. I want to be like you. What drives you? And then you tell them, chant Hare Krishna, or chant Hare Krishna and die to live. It will be a hack. So devotee says, well, you could give spiritual guidance without giving initiation. You explain what you heard from your spiritual master to others. So what's the necessity of giving initiation? Srila Maharaj says, that is also a trap to catch the guru. You give instructions on spiritual life to others, and those who take your instructions will say, I cannot go to anyone else. I can accept only what I've heard from you. I cannot accept anyone to be guru other than you. So it's kind of a trap. If you are a really expert preacher, then people may come to you and say, accept me as your disciple. But you can say, the devotee is playing the devil advocate here. You can say, if you accept me, then I tell you to accept him. Sridhar Maharaj says, if you sincerely feel so, he can say, if you have real faith in me, then I tell you to go to that temple. And maybe the person asking the question doesn't really know this, but when Bhaktivedanta Swami went to Srila Sridhar Maharaj and he said, give me sannyas, I'm going to preach all over the world. Srila Sridhar Maharaj told him, well, if you have faith in me, go to Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Maharaj, take sannyas from him. If he sincerely feels so, he can say, if you have real faith in me, then I tell you, go to that gentleman. He may say this if he sincerely believes that another person is superior to him. But if he sees that within the society, the constitutional acharya is going down, he will think, how can I recommend this sincere gentleman to connect with them? This is very confidential information. This is not to be mishandled, but transcendental knowledge admitted here. It's like snake venom. It's useful for heart attack patients, but be careful with it. Don't administer snake venom freely. If he sees within the society the constitutional acharya is going down, he will think, how can I recommend this sincere gentleman to connect with him? At that time, he will have to come down himself and take the responsibility of continuing the work of his guru. It all depends on sincere realization. There's a very nice photo of Bhaktivedanta Swami visiting with Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar. All right, shall I continue or is that enough? Questions, comments? Continue? If you want me to continue, do this. That's how we do in Mexico. That means yes, this means no. All right. Well, our next chapter is separation from Sri Guru, and that's something that I think we're all suffering from. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada advised his senior disciples, this is in italics because it was written by Goswami Maharaj. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada advised his senior disciples that if the need arose to consult higher spiritual authority after his disappearance, the senior godbrother, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, should be consulted. This is confirmed in different letters and also tape recordings. On more than one occasion, he said, I consider Srila Sridhar Maharaj to be my Shiksha Guru, instructing spiritual master. So what to speak of the benefit that others can have from his association? And, this has been hotly contested and denied, debated, but the facts speak for themselves. Srila Prabhupada lived with Srila Sridhar Maharaj in Calcutta and used to visit him. And they would discuss the Bhagavad Gita. We know that. That's a fact. We had a pharmacy on Sitakanta Banerjee Lane in Calcutta for many years. And another point that was always glossed over in that, his Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, has always represented us, something like an avatar. So his early life does not concern us. But, of course, he was married, he had children, he ran a business, and in his 60s or 70s, he took sannyas and began traveling around the world to preach. In terms of his particular participation in a temple, he didn't live in a temple. He didn't live under the authority of a sannyasi who was running a temple. He didn't spend years deep inside the Gaudiya Math, having the association of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Sridhar Maharaj did. He did live in a temple. He did live on, he was a brahmachari, and then lived under the guidance of different sannyasis and traveled and preached with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur himself. And later in life, he had this preaching mission in Calcutta where, you know, Bhaktivedanta Swami lived with him and kind of sponsored him. So what would be the relationship there? Who would have been the Shiksha Guru? You know, who would have been assisting and taking instruction? And there's nothing wrong with taking instruction. The great virtuoso violinist and pianist, they all had great teachers. So it's nothing wrong in that. Srila Prabhupada Bhaktivedanta Swami had a teacher. What would be wrong about that? But then to deny Srila Sridhar Maharaj's due and say, oh no, Bhaktivedanta Swami was unique. He didn't need any teacher. He didn't have to follow anyone from birth. He was great devotee. Why exclude Srila Sridhar Maharaj? Unless, well, maybe there's some constitutional reasons, some political reasons, you know. So he said, I consider Srila Sridhar Maharaj to be my Shiksha Guru. Just after his disappearance, his senior disciples approached Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and they wanted to keep this quiet. They wanted to keep it confidential. They didn't want anybody to know. Okay, we're going over here to India. We're going to meet Srila Sridhar Maharaj. She'll explain. They asked his advice on how to guide the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. The following is an excerpt of their conversation. So, devotee, we don't have his name here. After the departure of our beloved spiritual master, we have come here to offer our respects to you, as well as to hear your highly esteemed advice on certain matters, if you'd be kind enough. Srila Sridhar Maharaj. He says, the disappearance of the spiritual master is mentioned in the Shastra with an example. The disciple is like a lotus. The spiritual master is like water around a lotus, just as in a pond or a lake. Your late Gurudev's position is like water, and Krishna is like the sun. As long as the lotus is floating on the water, the sun will nourish the lotus. But if the water vanishes, that very sun will burn the lotus. Without water, the Krishna's sun will burn the lotus. Without the help of the Guru, the disciple is no. What a beautiful thing to say. Of course, you know, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he might have said, well, you know, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur really wanted me to be the acharya. So welcome all of you. Thank you for finally coming here, taking shelter at my feet. It's time to give a big donation to my deeds. No, not at all. His whole attitude is, well, you know, I miss my good friend. It's nice that you came here. It's good to see you all. God bless you all. The spiritual master is like the water surrounding a lotus. A disciple is like the lotus. The Krishna sun will burn the lotus if there's no water. Thank you very much. Wow. Spoken as a true spiritual master. That's the sort of thing you might find in ancient Chinese wisdom, you know? It's just a beautiful metaphor. And I remember when Bhakti Sudhir Goswami, at that time he was Dear Krishna Maharaj, he came to Los Angeles and he was giving Bhagavatam class, enlivening the devotees. We were all very sad because Srila Prabhupada had died, he passed away. And Goswami Maharaj told us that, and we thought, wow, that's so beautiful. So what do we do for water now? Raghunath Das said, without Guru, all is void. Raghunath Das Goswami has said, in the absence of my Guru Dev, Govardhan Hill, the representation of Krishna himself, seems to me just like a big python coming to devour me. And Radha Kund, the holiest place of divinity, the Gaudiya Sampradaya, seems like a tiger's mouth coming to devour me. They're giving me so much excitement in the absence of my Guru Dev, my dearest and highest spiritual guardian. My Guru Dev, who has the most intense affection for me, is not here. How can it be? Everything is void. All has vanished with his departure. Such a deep sense of separation will come in the heart of a sincere disciple. So I have to say, it's been 40 years since Srila Sridhar left the planet, but I'm still in a state of separation. I can't believe it. I vacillate between thinking. I have dreams sometimes where I'm swimming in the Ganges over there by the Gauranga Setu Bridge. And somehow as I'm swimming, I swim past the Nat Mandir. And there's Govinda Maharaj walking on the veranda. I can see Srila Sridhar Maharaj up there. And, something like, it's a very vague dream, but it fills me with a great sense of peace. And I always think that if I go to India, Srila Sridhar must be with, he'll be there, walking on this veranda, very brave, deeply immersed in thought. And Govinda Maharaj with a big smile, ready to say hello and greet me. It amazes me that they're no longer walking on the planet. They're in your heart, they're in my heart. And somehow that gives us solace. So when Srila Sridhar Maharaj passed away, Govinda Maharaj, for weeks, he didn't really want to talk to anybody. He said, I'm not getting any light. There's no light anymore. But gradually, we see the light and the followers of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So if you find some light there, then take shelter. And I've often said that, the ISKCON devotees, they like to compare Srila Prabhupada to the sun. He's opened my eyes with the light. That's the ultimate light, is the light of the sun. And then with the setting of the sun, well, the golden moon of Srila Sridhar Maharaj gave us all light and hope and protection. And then with the setting of the moon, the brilliant stars, they're even more beautiful than the moon, gave us light in the form of Govinda Maharaj. And now, where's the light? Well, there's light in fire, and there's a spark in every one of you. And when we come together, there's a certain amount of fire. So that's the hope that keeps me alive. And that's all I can say for today. I hope that our coming together like this, like little tiny sparks, the spark of a great forest fire. I like to watch these videos now. I see these videos, these kind of survival guides, when they go out in the forest with a knife and a piece of steel and dig a hole and cut down some branches and make a little house. And then with their steel, they strike a few sparks and make a big fire, And you think, wow, how is that even possible? It's a little steel and striking a spark and make a big fire. So my hope is like that. Maybe we can still make a few little cozy fireplace fires and warm ourselves and get a little bit of light by coming together and reading the words of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And I've done a few of these different sort of Zoom talks. I did the Bhagavad Gita And we did Prapana Jivanamritam, and we read the poems of Srila Sri Ramanuja in the form of the Premadana Stotra. But I got word from someone, I think it was Madhusudan Maharaj, I think listens to these talks, and if he's out there listening, you know, maybe hello and salute, Dandavad. He said, don't go too fast, take your time. So if I'm talking a lot, that's because I want to take my time with the text. So you forgive my words, but I'm trying in my humble way to follow the order of my Guru Maharaj, which was to help Goswami Maharaj and publish his writings, teachings. So any comments before we sign off and say adios? Everyone's so quiet. But see, that means you're more realized than Haripriya is.
My yogi, I heard it said that Srila Govinda Maharaj said for the Guru to cooperate with the people who wish to cooperate. And we are
Yes.
very happy to cooperate with you. Thank you.
Oh, that's very kind of him. Yes, he did say that. Cooperate with the people who cooperate with you. I had a friend who helped us at San Jose. His name was Brahmadas. I don't know if you knew him, but he said cooperate means you operate and I operate, and together we cooperate. I like that. All right, everybody. Now I'm going to go to the beach to recharge my batteries, and I'll be gone for about a week. I'll be traveling next Sunday, so I won't be able to do this. So we'll do this again in 2 weeks, if it's all right with you. And if you like our association, invite others who might cooperate with you, that we can cooperate together. All right. And Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, keep cooperating. Hare Krishna, adios to Tapanandi.
Jai.
Fare thee well, my friends from Ireland and Tungarasa TV. Hare Krishna. Bye bye.